Again, Chris, fuck, we're finally here, bro.
We are.
Yeah,
We made it.
right? I mean, I just looked back. First off, this is Chris Chacon, one of the partners here at Metal Labs. Heck yeah. And this quick flashback, it was about, I want to say July of last year, maybe something around that time. And you came up and we met for the first time.
Yeah. July last year.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, we met. We went to Alak, connected right away, and
Through a mutual friend.
through a mutual friend, and started a vision, and here we are. Yeah.
So take me through that journey, how you were inspired to start healing people, that journey, and how you came about discovering the calling.
It all started roughly 7 years ago when I decided to change my health and my well-being,
Yeah.
my spiritual life, my physical life. I was 280 pounds overweight, drinking.
Why?
Um,
And how many pounds do you weigh now?
I have no idea, but I'm not anywhere near that. I mean, I had to wear like triple X Dickies shirts. I was size 44, shorts.
Wow. I've seen pictures of you. That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, I'd say
Unrecognizable, I suppose.
would 50 pounds be fair? You'd lost.
I'm probably like 225 right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
About 50. That's
Yeah,
good.
I wear size 36. So
you were done with that life.
Yeah, I gave up that life. Life was full of anxiety and depression, and a lot of loneliness and isolation.
Now, how did that come about?
I just started drinking too much. I gave up a career in aerospace and defense because drinking became paramount to any of that. So
As a part of a social,
no, I'd been doing it my whole entire life. I've been, just casually, how we do growing up.
Sure.
And then it grabbed a hold of me later on in life. And what I mean by grabbing a hold of me, it took power over everything, over my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. It took over the way I felt and the way I behaved. And I started to go down a really dark path of isolation and self-destruction. And so I decided, again, roughly 7 years to change that.
Yeah.
And I got sober.
Oh, nice.
And along that journey, I changed my diet. I changed my physical health. I started working out. I started meditating, doing a lot of things that I had normally not done. And I was open to learning new things. And we came across something whilst in the sauna at the gym.
Yeah.
Right during it, I had gotten an injury from a car accident years ago, and it was reoccurring.
Yeah.
And so I would go sit in the sauna; it would help. And I'm like, there's something about this type of healing that was working for me. And
The sauna. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, could you give me a second? I want to see if we could dampen the sound a little.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can start back from that point. Just re-edit it.
Yeah. So let's go back to, you were talking about your experience in the sauna, how that was helping with your injury.
Right. So it was a reoccurring injury that wouldn't go away. So the pain was ongoing for 4 months, and I started losing strength in my right side, and I was getting really depressed because I couldn't continue my workouts. I couldn't continue my routine that helps keep me out of my head. And so I went and sat the sauna out of desperation, and it worked. And I'm like, wow. And I come from
and you never had really sauna before?
Not with intention, no. No, it was always just like, let's go try the sauna. It was never anything. It was more like nostalgia. My parents are both physical therapists, sports medicine physical therapists in the sports injury field. And I used to play around at their place when I was a child. And they had hot and cold therapy back then.
Right.
And
like a PT clinic.
yeah, hot and cold contrast therapy. And so the whole time while I was in the sauna, people talked about, hey, have you ever done cryo, or have you ever done cold plunges? And I would just sit in the sauna like a fly on the wall and just listen to everybody talk. And I had tried cryotherapy, and I thought it was interesting. Again, it was more like trying it out, like a nostalgia thing. Like, hey, I'm sitting in minus 175 degree air for 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And it was cool.
You had tried it with your family before.
No, I did it while I was a kid.
But the memory of cryo, cold water, came back to you in the form of nostalgia when you were inside of the sauna.
I used to go when I would get out of school, when I was young, and I would go hang out at the physical therapy department with my parents, and they had like this pool that had a river in the middle. They had cold whirlpools, hot whirlpools. They had hot spray machines, and so I would go play around in that stuff, you know. And that was my first experience with it. But I was never there for healing. I was just there to play around because I was a child. But
interesting.
Going back and talking to my parents about what that does currently, they say it works. I mean, they have 50 years experience of it.
Interesting, and especially, it doesn't appear to be a popular type of modality for people back then, because we don't hear it all too often, right?
And I asked them that. Yeah, we don't hear about it. I asked them why. They said it started to become unpopular due to medication. You know, so when the pharmaceutical industry would come in and say, hey, and this is what my parents explained to me. I talked to them probably a couple months back regarding that, and they said it became unpopular. One, because the pharmaceutical industry would come in and say, hey, take medication instead, and it kind of took away all of the cold and hot therapy, water treatment, and went into just more of the physical side with balls and equipment and things like that. So it was more like the pharmaceutical industry came in and said, you no longer need that. And so the therapy department went along with that and took all the machines out, right? Because it was expensive to maintain, it was expensive to run, and all of that stuff. So with that being said, they know it works. They know it works 100%. You know, the cold and hot contrast therapy, there's a reason why it's there. It's been, you know, as you know, it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah, absolutely. You know, for quite a long time. And the reason is because it does work.
So it could have been a fad, or are we somewhat exploring the hot and the cold as a potential trend that leaves and comes back? Sort of like yogurt kind of leaves and comes back every 10 years or so?
That's an interesting question. I truly believe no. I truly believe that it's something that we are bringing back in regards to the healing, and letting more people know about, hey, come try it out for yourself, see where your pain levels are at. You know, and we take people through a pain process, and I would have to say every client that has ran through it has left pain-free. So there's our proof that it works, right? And knowing that, hey, your pain is gone, your inflammation is healed, but it's going to come back later on in the day. So that kind of gives you hope, especially for the hopeless that come in and say, I haven't been able to get rid of the pain, Chris. You know, I've been on ibuprofen, I don't want to go on opioids, I don't want to go on narcotics, nothing works anymore, and this is our last effort. And it's like, yeah, come in and try it. And I let them know that your pain will probably come back like it did mine, you know, a few hours down the road, but you know something works, so that gives you hope. And when that gives you hope, it lets you know that something is working, right? So you come back and do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you treat your inflammation until the inflammation is gone. And then, like we talked about before, right, you can come in less frequently now and just maintenance it, right? Especially people who are athletic, you know, it has to be maintained just like everything. You know, we have clients that come in here regularly to maintain their physical side, but it helps mentally too.
I can't help but think like you're an incarnation of your parents from a nostalgic cycle, coming back to do the work that they had left behind. Are they retired now? Or?
Yeah, they're retired now. They're absolutely excited about what we're doing over here. and I do go to them for a lot of tips and a lot of advice with their experience doing this. I mean, they've been doing this since the 70s, for quite a long time.
I'll have to look into that, whether or not the cold and the hot was a popular thing throughout the 70s.
It was a really popular thing. And then, like I said,
I wasn't even born in the 70s.
It goes on a factor where, okay, you no longer need that, right? You need medication instead, right?
Which is quite easy to disseminate with radio and TV. You can readily program people to tell them, hey, we've discovered that the hot and cold doesn't work. Medicine's the way forward, so on and so forth, or we found something easier.
And not to get into any type of like, hey, because we're not doctors. We can't tell you what you should or shouldn't be on, right? That's none of our business. Our concern is to heal you holistically through the way that
we're just sharing stories.
You know, what
works for us, what works for other people.
What works for us, you know, and what works for our clients. And we see as we take clients through the process, they come in and start figuring it out on their own after we show them how, if we give them some training and some insight on what we think works, right? And so we're able to provide that for them.
At the end of the day, it's really kind of get the sense that it's energy and work that we are using as a path forward for people.
Right.
We're not doing anything by shortcutting the process, but add energy and work, which typically is two components of any sorts of manifestation, right?
Right. Again, it's like coming with intention to heal. You come in here with the intention that, hey, I'm gonna heal. And it's
heal
different
or power up, recharge.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's different than when you're at Mammoth and you're sitting in the jacuzzi and you're jumping into a cold pool and you feel the benefits, you feel really well, but you're just doing that for fun. Here we're doing it for healing and for sports medicine and whatnot. Yeah. But I think that that when we see other clients come in and watch it work for them, it's a beautiful thing to see, especially some of these people that are hopeless.
Yeah. Must bring you a lot of joy as much as it does me, just to see people walk away with a smile on their faces.
I don't think we've met one person that has come here that left saying, I'll never come here again. It sucked.
Maybe that day will come.
Yeah, maybe that day will come. But you know, we've had clients come here for mental health, and it works, which is beautiful. Yeah, you know, our drug and alcohol rehabs that come in here frequently, it works for them. Okay. So with that, I see that like it worked for me. It's working for me, helps me get out of my head. Yeah. Any injuries that I get that I acquire through my physical exercise, I know where to go when it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to have one available to us at any given time of the day. Just go in, open up the door and do our thing.
100%.
Yeah. Just to pivot a little, because I know, and you and I both know, that the cold has been doing miracles for a lot of people over the last couple of years, ever since the introduction of Wim Hof to the American and Western culture. And even beyond that, just having our families that were exposed to the hot and cold. Right. And myself and you personally. Right. Even beyond, you know, our understanding and our first introduction of Wim Hof. And so there's a lot of people that are supporting. There's a lot of, you know, trials and tribulations and documentations that'll prove this thing does work. And who knows, maybe in the years ahead, too much cold could cause a long-term effect. We don't know. It's because no one really predicts the future like that. Right. And that's why we are instrumental in exploring it ourselves, and always look to the yin and yang for sort of a compass of balance, so to speak, right? And that's why we're now exploring the depths of what extreme hot plunging can do for all of us as well, not just the cold. And it's something we have to do in secrecy with our members, just so that it doesn't offend any other institutions of recovery out there, right? Yeah. So we could kind of put that to rest for right now, and I want to be able to pivot you on over to the next question, which is, assuming this thing right now continues to grow, cold plunging, cold exposure, cryotherapy, how can we help other people who are looking to open up facilities like ours so that we can continue to spread the joys of recovery and healing to other parts of the world? Like, what are some of the advices you can give to new entrepreneurs in this space?
I
mean, we don't know much. We've only been around for a year, but we can, that's enough information for people to mitigate some of their mistakes and failures and such.
I mean, within the year that we've been around, I mean, you have over 10 years experience.
In plunging, yes.
In plunging, yes.
Right.
But we've ran hundreds. We've ran quite a few hundreds of people through the process. And the common theme that we see is that everybody leaves here feeling good. But we have to also be aware, and I think this might be something pivotal for others to think. You have people on social media, right, that are trying to break cold records, like, I'm gonna go underwater for 20 minutes, or it's like, okay, we have to remember that overexposure is not good. So you were talking about some dangers perhaps, and that is hypothermia, right? I don't think people really realize that's an issue. You can get hypothermia in 70-something degree water.
If I could make a analogy to that, would be working out. If you were to start working out, you don't necessarily want to bench press more than what you can handle.
Right.
Unless you have an intention of tearing your tissues or whatnot.
Right.
So taking it nice and easy. It's always a good protocol to adhere to, right?
And that's why we have the contrast water. So you get cold and then you thaw out, you get cold and then you thaw out, you get cold and then you thaw out, and you end it in cold and your day is off and running. Or you can end it hot and you're relaxed and you feel good, or you end it in the sauna. And it's an expansion process in the sauna. It's a detoxification, it's a release. Most people get that, right? The cold, on the other hand, is a contraction, and it is a battery charger, and it recharges you. So when you're doing both, cold, hot, it's confusing your body, which is really, really good. You're getting a workout in both sides, but different types. Your blood, your cardiovascular system is rushing, especially in the cold, because it's pushing all the blood to your outer extremities to keep you warm. Right, so it's rushing all the blood through your capillaries, through your veins, and through your heart, and it's pumping hard to keep you warm, to prevent hypothermia.
It's like that rebound effect we were talking about earlier. That the body wants to adapt, so it learns from that chaos of hot, cold. Right. I gotta warm up my body to counter the cold. I gotta cool off my body just to counter the heat. So it's constantly working.
And you think about it.
That makes sense.
When do you ever do that? We don't do that normally. It's not a normal thing to do. Especially
with extreme.
Right, so you're going from one extreme to the other, which is incredibly beneficial and incredibly healthy for you, especially in the sauna. The sauna like releases, starts rushing your blood through, but again, like overexposure on anything, work your way up. Work your way up and train your body, come in there with intention. So I highly recommend that other people that are looking to start something like that, be aware. Be aware that there's potential, that you want to make sure that there's no overexposure. Because in the long run, in reality, all the research that we've done in our experience, there really is no danger to cold water. It's just cold water, but it's how you do it. Right? It's how you do it and your intention with it. And same with the heat. You don't want to overexpose in the heat. You just want to get your session in and move on for the rest of your day. Then you're free to go do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's beautiful. A lot of people are going to appreciate that we have that offered for people here. Let's pivot on over. Could you talk a little more about your history in AA?
Sure.
Alcoholics Anonymous, and how that ultimately led you here?
Right. Well, I don't want to really bring up that in itself. I do a 12-step program. Right, I've been doing it for roughly 7 years, and it teaches you to basically become a selfless, kind person, to have empathy and love and tolerance for all. Right. And that's what it did for me. And I had to look at myself on the person that I had become as a direct result of my drinking, knowing that that's not me, that's not who I am. The behaviors I do, the things that I say, and the way I treat people. As an alcoholic, active in my alcoholism, is not who I am. I have an illness, it's a mental illness, right? But it can be treated, and just like anything else, any other mental illness has to be treated, and I treat it through a 12-step program. And it's basically, I look at myself every day on how I can improve, right? At night, I look at myself and see what I can do better. In the morning, I wake up and go, hey, who can I help? Stay out of my own way.
Nice.
And then I help people.
I've known you for a better half of a year or so. We've become close enough where you've shared enough information. Now, when you said ill earlier, I've heard you mention this a few times. Could you, explain that? Like, what sort of illness led you to alcohol?
Right.
Or in association?
Who knows what caused it or brought it upon me? In my experience, some people like to think it's hereditary. It's absolutely not. It's environmental.
Hereditary, meaning your family?
Yeah, like it's handed down from generation to generation. We find that not to be true. We really try not to look at the root cause, because it's like, hey, you are one, what are you going to do about it? Instead of like focusing on, well, this is why this happened. It happened because of this. Yeah, that's irrelevant. It's happening now. What are you going to do about it? Because if you don't do something about it, if I didn't do something about it, right, I was going to be lonely, depressed, miserable, angry, overweight, full of self-pity, and a lot of fear. And I didn't want to live like that anymore. So I had a choice.
So first, put out the fire.
Right.
Which you're doing. And then when you feel a lot better and it's safe to explore your own being, you could then hopefully by that time have a sense of clarity to figure out where the root's at.
Well, I had to dry out first, obviously. I had to stop drinking. And once I stopped drinking, I was clear to start focusing on how to improve. And that's where a 12-step program comes in. It shows us how to improve. And it works.
That makes sense.
And there's a reason why it's been around for borderline 100 years, because it's been working for over 100 years.
Yeah.
So with anything else,
people have been drinking like a fish for a
better
part
to some people,
thousands of years.
To some people, it reacts normally in their body. For me, it reacts abnormally in my body, which means I can never safely put it in my body ever again without it ruining my life.
Now, I read a book, I forgot what it was called. It was like Charlotte's Web of Eastern Medicine, something to that extent. And it said the only diseases in the world are excessiveness and deficiency.
Interesting.
So in that extent, to that point, do you believe that the illness that you have is related to an excessive use of alcohol during that time? And when did it start for you?
Well, alcohol treated my alcoholism pretty well.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So when I look at it like that.
When did it start, by the way?
About 12 years ago.
When you started drinking?
No, I started drinking long ago, but I was able to control it. The unmanageable side came about 12 years ago.
So when you started, because all things build up, when you started, how old were you, if you don't mind?
When I started drinking, probably around 12.
Woo!
Yeah, there's a magic number. You find
12
that
and
common.
12?
Yeah, you find that common number. At least in my generation of people who started drinking and using, smoking weed, drinking, just kind of doing the thing of growing up, trying to fit in, doing that thing. And these days we find much younger people in 12-step programs because it's really bad out there now. But when you look at
12 steps 12 years ago, when we were 12 years old.
When I say alcohol treated my alcoholism quite well, right? It means that it helped with my anxiety, it helped with my depression, it helped with my fear, it helped with my loneliness, it helped with my self-pity, it helped with my self-doubt, it helped with my lack of self-worth, right?
Meaning you weren't really paying attention to it?
No, it worked. It made that all better.
Oh,
It made my anxiety better, it made my depression better, it made my fear better, it made my loneliness a lot better.
is that
Right.
considered escapism
It's,
in a way?
it's considered, what we say in the rooms is alcohol is but a symptom, right? I use alcohol to fix all that,
Yeah.
right? So what does that tell me? It means that alcohol isn't the problem, I'm the problem.
Yeah, so
when I removed
alcohol
it-
is a symptom. I'm trying to figure that part
Right,
out.
so alcohol is not the problem, right? I used alcohol to mask what was going on inside of me. So if I can look back at that, perhaps childhood trauma caused it, perhaps a lot of violence, perhaps a lot of things that happened to me whilst growing up, right? All came to fruition years later and said, well, you know what? Alcohol is going to work to cover all that, because whatever you're going through right now, you're suffering from anxiety, alcohol is going to fix that. You're suffering from depression, alcohol is going to fix that. You're suffering from self-pity and loneliness, alcohol is going to fix that. You're suffering from a lot of dark thoughts, alcohol is going to fix that,
Yeah.
right? And it fixed it really well.
Yeah.
So when I remove the alcohol, I'm still stuck with all of that. So alcohol is but a symptom. Alcohol, it's not the problem, I'm the problem. So how do I fix that? I need to remove all of that anxiety, or I need to remove the depression, I need to remove the self-pity, I need to remove the loneliness, I need to remove the anger. And how do I do that? I don't know. 12 steps taught me how to do that.
So it seems like alcohol was treating your anxieties and all of that stuff. And when you sort of move forward with that, did you feel as though your anxieties and all of those feelings were deepening the more you tried to use alcohol to fix your problem? It got worse and worse.
What happened? Yeah, absolutely. It got way worse, and then it stopped working. But yet here I am still drinking because I'm dependent on something that I thought that would continue to work. And now I physically need it in my body in order to not have delirium tremens or panic attacks, because alcohol, as we know, is poison. So when I removed it, again, I'm still stuck with all those feelings and all those emotions, but they've increased times 10, and now they're worse. So now I'm doubly screwed. And that's where the program came into play and showed me how to get rid of that. I had help. People showed me how to do it. That's why there's steps. You do one step at a time. As you progress through these steps, one day I realized, man, I'm not angry. Wait, hold on. I woke up without anxiety. Wait, I just realized I'm not depressed. I'm smiling all the time. How did that happen? It happened through the program.
Nice.
Those are called spiritual awakenings. I couldn't remove anxiety on my own. I couldn't remove depression on my own. I couldn't remove anger on my own. I couldn't do any of that. I didn't know how. The program showed me how. And those allow me to change into a person I am today from the person that I was, right? And now I'm a different person.
Yeah, so you're, in a way, you're reversing out all of those anxieties through the absence of alcohol,
Right.
or the lack of abuse of alcohol,
Right.
because you were abusing it.
So if I don't maintain that, right, it'll all come back.
I see.
So it's just like when we relate it to the plunge, right? If we don't maintain our body, the injuries and the inflammation will come back, and the pain will come back.
Yeah.
And it'll get worse and worse and worse, as you know. And so we have to continue to treat it every single day to prevent injury.
Yeah, it's kind of like a car. The more you use it, the more you got to be able to put energy in repairing it, right?
Right.
Now, going back to when you said you started drinking at 12,
Yeah.
the whole idea was to be with friends, to impress friends, and
Yeah.
just have a lot of good time. Now, were there any moments where you felt as though you were doing it excessively, where it compromised your ability to do other things that would be considered responsible as a kid, or like what? Take me through that process. Like, what were you doing at 12? Like, going to the bars, sneaking in?
No, we would just like skate.
Skate.
We would skate and we would smoke weed, and we would like, you know, our neighbors across the street would always, their parents are always like open to like parties on the weekend, and they left like coolers and stuff like that, and a fridge full of booze, and you know, garage that had a fridge full of booze, and garage was always open, and we would just like help ourselves, and they were cool with it.
Did you remember going to your first party at around 12 then?
It wasn't really like, you know, we would we would have like junior high parties. You know, we'd get out like half a day at school, and then we'd go to someone's house and we'd freaking booze it up and party. It was just the thing to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
smoke
ask.
weed. We try to be cool. We're like the cool kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just, well, I don't know if they do that nowadays. I don't know. Back then, it was more like we went hard.
Mm-hmm.
We went hard. We did everything. We did everything to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we would come home all beat up and bruised up. We would get in fights. You know, and we would, and that was the normal. That was normal to us.
I could imagine it being fun, because it's
fun as hell.
It's a privilege.
Yeah.
In comparison to, say, my family, a lot of Asian people coming over as an immigrant, we don't have the luxury of just, hey, let's go out there and party.
Yeah.
Whereas we're trying to ground ourselves into a new country, build up, pay rent, put food on our table. It was something that we had to go through, right?
Yeah.
So for you growing up, it's nice to know that there is a different sort of lifestyle where you had the luxury of understanding that you have space and time and the freedom to go and hang out with your friends and do wild stuff.
Yeah.
Which is natural and normal of anyone who has that sort of freedom, right?
Yeah.
And looking back now, what would you do different compared to?
I mean, that early, nothing. It was just fun.
Yeah.
Skating around, just enjoying life as kids do. Mm-hmm. As I got older, I would have probably focused more on my education.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what you would.
But I have zero regrets. It brought me to where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't ever regret the past.
How would you raise your kid then if you were to have kids?
How would I what?
Raise your kids. Would you say, hey, go ahead, drink at 12, go to the house parties? Like, how would you do it?
I would be a little, I mean, I would never ever try and like control my child on that level, but I would make them quite aware and bring them up in a proper environment where they see that that's not the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And try my best, but you can't, especially these days, shelter children.
Yeah.
You know, my child is 23 now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you do have a kid. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. He's a robotics mechanical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't drink, he doesn't use, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean it can't get him later on in life like it did me.
Yeah.
Right. I was able to control all of that as growing up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So there were some times where I was like a heavy user, heavy drinker, but I was still able to maintain grades. I was still able to maintain a career.
Mm-hmm.
I've maintained a wonderful career.
I see.
Yeah, and then it got me later on in life, and I don't know why or how. I just know that it did.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back, I was never really kind. I was never really selfless. Mm-hmm. I was always about me. What can I get next? How can I get better?
Mm-hmm.
How can I get more money? How can I do this? How can I do that?
Okay.
And now it's not like that.
Okay.
So it's a completely different way of thinking. It's a completely different outlook. I feel differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need any form of substance to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good as is.
Yeah. Now, do you feel as though I feel as though I reiterate and rehash this? Because to me, it's always beautiful to see how the past could effectively treat our future and help us manifest the future that we desire. And a lot of the times I just like to just polish the crystal ball of the past so that people could somehow play their own genie and play their own magician in helping that build a better path forward. So to speak.
I look back at my past often.
Right. Now, having said that, since you drank at 12, did you feel as though you had built some kind of momentum or comfort with alcohol so that when you later on in life, maybe when you're at the age of maybe 20, 40 or so?
Yeah.
Where you were deep into your career as a defense contract or a military defense, career man, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you feel as though because you've had that foundation as a drinker, that now you had such a higher tolerance into your 40s that it inevitably took you to newer heights of alcohol? Because now you can drink more.
It wasn't, I never really,
harder.
So as a youngster, sure, we drank because it was something to do. It was our thing. But when I got into high school, it was more like we drank to party.
Yeah.
When I got into college, it was like barely. It was like I would like 1 or 2 beers. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really that big of a deal. You know, I was always even out of college, I was just like, you know, here and there, just a few beers. Mm-hmm. Didn't affect me. I would buy like I remember I got a gift of a case of beer for Christmas one time, Beers of the World. It took me like a year to drink them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was like I didn't really care about it. Didn't have any issue with it. I was never really into drinking. It was just growing up, sure. There was a lot of other substances involved growing up too that I'd done.
Yeah.
But you look at the consequences from back then, they were very little and they became greater and greater and greater and greater and greater. So you see the progression. You see the progression of the illness that comes into play because the consequences are getting greater, but yet here I am still doing it.
And even, it's crazy. I mean, I'm doing my best to wrap my head around this idea of illness because, you know, as we get older, we can't help but see that accountability is everything. That accountability truly makes a person more aware of, or gives a person greater awareness.
Right.
In the long term.
Right.
Now, when you say illness, do you feel as though that's some sort of a cop-out for yourself? That you're sort of not taking accountability, but instead you're pushing it to something that has nothing to do with you and your decisions?
No, it's not. It's people think that you have a choice. I don't have a choice. Right. So that's where the illness comes in. It's a mental illness. There isn't a cure. Right. There never will be a cure for it. And it's the deadliest mental illness on the planet. Right. Some people like to call it a disease. That's fine. I call it a mental illness because it affects us mentally. So
you said you don't have a choice.
No.
But do you feel as though there are people with choices and there are people without choices?
Not when it comes to alcoholism and drug addiction, no.
So if I were to take drugs or alcohol, or drink alcohol, you're saying that I would be lost in an addiction?
No, there's some people that can control it and there's some people that can't. But so, you look at say certain drugs, and I can give you an analogy right now. So you say you take say you take 100 people and you give them alcohol every day for a year.
Yeah.
Increase the dosage a little bit every single day, and at the end of that year, 4 will be alcoholic, then 96 won't, but those 4 will think they're just like that 96, that they're not alcoholic, right? Yeah. So let's do this with drugs. So you take crack or meth or heroin and you do the same experiment, right? You give 100 of those people narcotics or drugs and increase the dosage every single day, and by the end of that year, all 100 of them will be addicted to that drug.
I mean, you're building something into something. You're basically watering a tree and expecting it not to be a tree. Well, so my point in saying that is like, I feel like the most people would understand that. It's like, it's an easy statement to make, right?
Well, I mean, you're either an alcoholic or you're not.
Right, so but what you're saying is like, you've built yourself into becoming an addictive person.
There are people who partied and drank just like me, and are fine today. They're no longer doing that, or they can still control their drinking and use it if they're alive.
Now, are they drinking casually, or are they drinking as much as you do?
I don't know. I don't hang out with them anymore. But I can tell you that people I know, like my normal friends, my non-alcoholic friends, they drink constantly and drink regularly, right? They're able to put one down. I cannot.
We all have friends like that.
Right. So. I can drink a beer. You can drink a beer and put it down and not have to think about it ever again, right? You can go with it or without it, right? You don't need it. Me, if I put a beer in my body, I go on a run and I can't stop.
Correct, yeah.
Right, so that's the difference. Right, now the progression of my illness, sure. We don't know what's the cause. They say trauma.
Okay, so now I I feel as though I have a better understanding.
Yeah.
So your illness isn't really the alcohol, but it's a complexity that you have.
Alcohol's a symptom, brother.
Which is whether or not it's trauma, you said whether or not it's environmental.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complexity you have, so to speak.
I drank to escape
yeah, okay.
my pain,
Mm-hmm.
my anxiety, my depression, my fear, my loneliness, my self-pity. You know, I drank to cover up all those feelings because I wasn't cool with who I was. Right? I didn't feel good as is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, looking back, I was always on something to feel. So whatever childhood trauma or whatnot, I'm not going to go into any of that. That a lot of us suffer. Some people are able to deal with it, and some people find drugs and alcohol to mask it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so for someone who gets addicted to it, right, we get to the point where we have no choice.
Yeah.
So my choice is anxiety attacks, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, or I drink.
Yeah.
So I would way rather drink than shoot myself in the head.
Gotcha.
Right? And I've had plenty of friends who've done that.
It's never fun because there's so many people that have to deal with this and go through this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I know this. Just try to draw ourselves like a similar circumstances where if a person has a hard time cleaning his room.
Yeah.
Same with the body and mind. You have a hard time confronting the ability to clean the room,
Mm-hmm.
or just confronting the dirtiness and messiness
Right.
one person has created, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the avoidance of cleaning and organizing your room is only gonna make it worse over time.
Right.
You're going to get dirtier,
Mm-hmm.
you get messier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of it comes down to one, do you have the skill to clean the room? If you have been taught. And secondly, a lot of that comes from the place of patience. Right? Do you have the patience to clean and confront that mess? So do you feel as though what you were going through as a kid growing up, that you weren't in a space where you had the opportunity to share that with your family, like your mom and your dad per se, and that they never walked you through the process of confronting your own feelings, confronting certain things? Or was that like a skill that was never taught to you equally as it was never taught to me?
I grew up in the 80s, man. There was none of that.
None of that?
None of that.
Okay.
No, you deal with your shit.
Mm-hmm.
You deal with your shit. Like, you go handle your business, right? We don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about emotions.
Yeah.
Which sure could have been something that ultimately brought me to where I'm at today.
Yeah.
You know, as a man, we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about emotions. We don't cry.
Sure.
You know, we don't get vulnerable.
Same
But
with
when
the
it
Asian
comes
culture.
to, you talk about the cleaning of the room, with alcoholism, it's like, okay, so maybe I didn't know how to clean a room.
Mhm.
I don't know how to clean a room. Maybe someone doesn't know how to clean a room, but I'm willing to learn.
Mhm.
So there's where that came in. The same with alcoholism. I don't know how to get sober. I don't know how to do that,
Mhm. Yeah.
but I'm willing to learn.
Yeah.
And when I got willing, right, which willingness can't be taught. You can't scare me to get sober.
Mhm.
You can't scare me from saying, hey, if you keep drinking, you're going to get sick and you're going to get liver disease, or you're never going to see your child, or you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to lose your career. I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to risk it.
Yeah,
right?
most people do, I would
Mhm.
imagine.
And so it's a matter of me saying, okay, I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm done feeling like this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And
Yeah.
that's where you see people who are successful sober. There's
So when
many
the
who
wheels
don't.
came off, you're like, fuck, it's time to change.
Flag, I waved the flag, I threw in the towel, I put
Yeah.
my hands up and said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Please show me another way to do it.
Mhm.
And that's where the 12 steps came in, is I had people that came in and guided me. So connection is the opposite of alcoholism and addiction, is when you have someone that you can connect with, right?
Yeah.
That's like-minded, that has been through what I've been through, that has experienced the same things, the depression, the loneliness, the anger, the self-pity, the self-doubt, the lack of self-worth, and was able to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, fuck, if you can get out of it, I can too.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how.
Yeah.
And they did. And now I show others how.
Well, congratulations
Thanks,
for that,
man.
because you've shown so much progress, as you had explained and shared through the past, X amount of months that we've been together. And
Appreciate that, man.
And I could say this from my firsthand experience is that your continuance, your continual growth, the, you know, high levels of accountability, relatively speaking, high levels of patience, relatively speaking, you know, it's you and I both, we've grown so much.
Yeah.
And just dealing with each one another's bullshit, you know?
Yeah, dude. It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
But
So
it's an honest journey, right? You know, and,
It is.
And you know, I learn from you, you learn from me, we learn from each other, and we have a good team. And you know, it's what I loved about you when I first met you was that you wanted to help people. And that's, I believe, is a primary purpose that is never fully 100% achieved. It's just a path. When we fully just continue to help people.
I'm casual with that. You're vehemently down to help people. With me, I enjoy it. It's fun. I try to imagine everyone's perfectly fine and okay.
Right.
You know, but that's a passion that I don't hold accountable to your fire to help other people.
And that's okay, but you do it without knowing it though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You did teach me that everything's relative.
You do it without knowing it.
As long as you grow 1 or 2% a day, relative to where you are, it's the great path to be on.
Even if we fail in the day, it's still a success.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Amen.
You know, living a life with other like-minded people that hold us accountable, that allow us to grow, that show us new ways and be open-minded to it. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. Amen.
Sky's the limit.
Well, we'll continue to go places, my friend.
Let's do it.
I think that's enough for us. We can kind of wrap it up here.
Can I get a hug?
Yeah, let's get it.
Love you, bro.
All right, love you too, bro.
That was a great interview, man.
We did it, man.
Yeah.